plus IE equal to 1 plus IN. You can use M or N, whichever you decide. I'm going to use N. Okay? So we want to determine this nominal interest rate. Okay? So our nominal interest rate in this case it will be I12. It's going to be equal to, remember, yesterday I told you that you can easily simplify this. So it will be the 12th root. You are going to have 12 there. 1 plus 12%, that's 0.12. Right? And then you need to subtract 12 there. Right? I showed you how to do that. So you can easily make your nominal interest rate the subject. And then you simplify. If you simplify, what answer do you get? With nominal interest rate. So when you write your nominal interest rate, you must write it as a percentage per annum compounded monthly. So in our calculation in 6.2, we are going to use this nominal interest rate to do our calculation. So in 6.2, that's where I'm going now. 6.2. Now 6.2, it says calculate the monthly payment required to settle the loan. Okay? So based on the information that's given, our P is 120,000. Our N is 4 years, but the interest is compounded monthly, so it will be times 12, and then you get 48. Our interest rate is 11.39%. Okay, 11.39% over 12, which is 0.1139. Okay, I would advise you to not round off where we got this answer from. Remember, we had to round off to get 11.39%. So if you can, I would suggest that you don't round it off when you are using that value in 6.2. Okay? So for this question, we want to calculate the monthly payment, which is X. Right? So we write our formula. It's very important, always write down the formula. Okay? Always write down the formula because sometimes it can be allocated a mark. So it's always advisable to write your formula first. And again, as I emphasized yesterday, make sure you are very careful of that minus n. Okay? Minus n does not mean that n is negative. N is never negative. Okay? That minus comes from the derivation of the formula for present value annuities. And I showed you yesterday where it comes from. Okay? So we substitute now. Now, if I want to make x the subject, I'll just say x will be equal to p times I all over 1 minus 1 plus I raised to the power of minus n. And then I'll substitute. Okay, my P is 120,000 times I, that's 0, okay, this must be divided by 12, so that's 0.1139 all over 12. All over 1 minus 1 plus 0.1139 over 12 raised to the power of minus 48. Okay, so what answer do you get for your x? Okay, so the person has to pay 3,124 rand and 24 cents per month for 4 years in order to pay off that loan. All right, so it's very straightforward and it's also simple as well. Right. So here, Mr. Matabane bought a car, or rather he wanted to buy a car from a car dealership, okay, he didn't have the full cash price. So this is what happened. Now, this type of a question, it's a real life problem. Okay, it's a real life problem. So it's also wise for you to be familiar with what goes on when it comes to buying cars. So he wants to buy a car, right? Now, instead of paying the full amount, which is X, he was requested to pay 15% deposit, which means the remainder 85% he had to borrow from a bank in order for him to pay for the car. The car dealership and the bank, they work together. So, when a person goes to a car dealership to buy a car, if they don't have the full cash price, they apply for vehicle finance. Okay? When they apply for vehicle finance, if it is approved, in most cases they may request a deposit. Okay? They may request a deposit of 10% or 20%, depending, or even you yourself, you can offer to pay a deposit. You are allowed even to offer a deposit, because the advantage of paying a deposit is that it will lower the monthly payment. Okay, so it means your interest will also go down if you pay a deposit. It's not a good idea to buy a car at 0% deposit. It means you are going to end up paying more in terms of interest, and your monthly payment will also be higher. Some people, they think if the deposit is 0%, then it's a very good thing. It's not. It's not. Okay, there's a shorter way whereby you can equate. Uh, you can equate it this way. You can say 1 plus I n over n. Okay, that's the nominal interest rate. Let's say this one is the one which is compounded half yearly. That must be equal to a nominal interest rate which is compounded monthly. Alright, so you can use that formula like that. Okay, so there are two ways. Either you have to use this formula 2 times, but you have to calculate the effective interest rate first. Then you move from that effective interest rate to another nominal interest rate. Okay, so it's better to use this one. So if I want to calculate, let's say if this n here is my 12, okay, let's say that's my 12, it means this m here I have to put 2 there. So I'm going to say 1 plus in, this will be I2, okay, this will be I12 over 12 raised to the power of 12, that's equal to 1 plus I2, okay, over, okay, that I2 there is given. Okay, the I2 is given as 10% per annum compounded half yearly. So that's 0.1 over 2. Okay, all raised to the power of 2. So if I want to calculate that one, I have to take the 12th root of that and simplify. So I can write this I12 will be equal to the 12th root, okay, the 12th root of 1 plus 0.1 over 2 raised to the power of 2. Now, because I took the 12th root, I now need to multiply that by 12. So eventually, I have to multiply this by 12, and then I must subtract 12 like that. Right? Is asking you to show that the equivalent monthly interest rate, right, is going to be 9.8%. So I have shown it, right? So your I here to be I12 will be equal to 9.8%. Okay? So that's straightforward. Right? Now we are going to need to use that value later on. So let's move on to 7.2. Says determine the value of the loan. Now here it's asking you to determine the amount which was borrowed. The amount which was borrowed without interest. There is no interest as yet. But we want to know, after paying the 15% deposit, what is the value of that 85%? Okay? Now, to get the value of the loan, we have to use the future value annuity. The present value annuity formula. So, we are going to need the monthly payment. We also need the duration, that is where we get the N, right? And we are going to need an interest. So we are going to use those three. Okay? We are going to use those three. So let me move on to the next page. Now, 7.2. Now, when you're doing the question, it's very important for you to be very, very careful. So, P is unknown. Okay? Our N is 6 years, okay, times the interest which is going to be compounded per month. Alright? And then I is going to be 9.8% over 12, and that's 0.098 over 12. Right? Our X is 800 rand. Okay? I think this is a very cheap car though. Pay 800 rand per month, that's very cheap. Okay? Maybe it's a second hand or something. Like so, if you write P is going to be equal to X times 1 minus 1 plus I raised to the power of minus N all over I. Okay, so you have 800 times 1 minus 1 plus 0.098 over 12 raised to the power of minus 72 all over 0.098 divided by 12. So, if you simplify that, what answer do you get? Right? So he's going to borrow 43,418.94 cents and is going to accumulate interest over 6 years. Also, that 43,418.94 cents does not include interest, which means it is 85% of the cash price. When he went to the car dealership, there was a price on the car, that's the cash price. If you don't have cash, then it will end up going up because of interest. So he borrowed 43,418.94 cents. That's 7.2. Then 7.3, it says calculate the original cash price of the car. Okay? Calculate the original cash price of the car. So this, before I carry on, this amount is 85% of cash price. Okay? So we need to know what was the value of the car. Okay? When Mr. Matabane went to that car dealership, there was a price on the car. What was that price? Okay? So let's move on to the next question. Now, to get the price, remember we are saying 43,418.94. This is 85%. Okay? Now, what is 100%? Okay? You can call that one X. Okay? So we are going to use proportion. Remember, I did proportion in the lower grades. So he borrowed 85%. We know the value of the 85%. Okay? He paid 15% deposit. We now need to know what is the original price. So here, to get this X, right, we say X is equal to, since this X is going to be more than that, you divide this 100 by 85, so it will be 100 over 85 times 43,418.94. right? If you simplify that, what answer do you get? If you are going to pay cash, then you are supposed to pay this amount. Okay? You're supposed to pay that amount. But because he didn't have cash, he had to request a loan. But one of the conditions of getting the loan was to pay a 15% deposit. Let's say if he didn't have the 15% deposit, then it was going to be difficult for him to get the car, because that will be a precondition which has to be satisfied, whether they like it or not. Sometimes when you're buying a car, they will request a deposit, and you have to pay that deposit for the deal to go through. If you don't have the 15% deposit, if you really want the car, then you can run around maybe to borrow from friends, relatives, and so on. That if you're going to pay for the car in total, this is very important. The total amount is going to involve the following. It's going to include that deposit, well, it's money that is going to spend on the car. It will also include the amount that he borrowed plus its interest over those 6 years. So, if you want to calculate the total, so we'll say total amount paid. It will be equal to 15% of 15% of this amount, which is 51,081,11 plus the monthly payments. They are 800 rand times 72. Okay? Times 72. Right? Now, remember that 800 times 72, it includes the amount that he borrowed plus the interest. So, I would not encourage you to use this value here, because that's the value of the amount borrowed. It doesn't include any interest. This amount does not have any interest in it. That's the amount that he borrowed. So if you want the total amount that he spent on the car, you have to have the 15% of the original cash price plus the monthly payment times the number of times that he paid that 800, which is over 6 years, which means 72 times. Now, this amount here, it includes this value. Okay, it includes that 43,494 cents plus the interest of borrowing. Okay, the interest charged for borrowing this amount will also be included there. So if you simplify this, is the same as 0.15 times 51,081,11 plus 800 times 72. So what, if you simplify that, what's the total? 17 cents. Okay? He's going to spend 65,262 rand and 17 cents in order to pay off the car. Okay? So at the end of the 6th year, you would have spent that much. Okay? So that's how we do the question. Right? So it's very good for you to understand, or rather, it's very important for you to understand what the question is requiring. So be very careful when you're answering the questions. Read the question, understand what the question wants, and know your basics of financial mathematics. For you to remember here that if you want to calculate the interest, you need to know the total amount that he had to pay off. Okay, or the total amount that you spend on the car. So if you don't get 7.4 right, you are likely to get 7.5 wrong. So we need the total that you spend on the car. Then we subtract the deposit. Okay, we subtract the deposit. Remember, the reason for paying this deposit. It is to reduce the interest. That's the objective. If you did not pay, if you did not pay this, then this amount would go up. Okay? And that will eventually affect the interest. Alright? So we paid that 50% minus that 43, and then we simplify this. What would you get? Alright? Is there anybody who has a question? Alright. If you don't have any question, right, I think for today we will stop there. Okay, we'll stop here. Right, tomorrow